Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 11 of the overnight feed recaps for Big Brother Season 27. All right, we've made it through our first eviction. We've made it through our first our second HOH. We did have nominations yesterday. Let's talk about that as a bit of a reminder. Remember, Jimmy is the HOH. He definitely had some targets for his nominations that we heard him talking about from Thursday and all day yesterday. Three separate powers were also won anonymously in the HOH competition, and there were a lot of conversations about that taking place around the house that we'll cover. Now, the house knows that Kelly has a veto power. They suspect that Keanu has a power as well, which we know is a double chance at winning veto. And Michie has a power as well, the HOH takeover. And as far as I know, the only person she is told about that power is Morgan. And then remember, we also have Zach, who has his power from saving Julie on night number one, where he can spend his $10,000 prize and pull himself off the block as well. So, yeah, we got a lot of powers in the house going on right now. And unfortunately, a lot like last season, some of these house guests told a few too many people about their powers, taking away some of the joy we have seen with a complete reveal that no one was aware of. We're going to see. It could be a very interesting veto ceremony next Monday. All right, now with that in mind, we also do have nots. I wanted to mention that. I'd said on my recap yesterday that it was Amy and Michie and I think Ashley. Nah, it's not. It's Amy and Michie and Rachel. Rachel doing it for the second week in a row. At first, I wasn't sure whether they volunteered or if it's part of the competition. They came in last or something. It sounds like throughout the evening, hearing some people talk, sounds like the HOH, who happened to be Jimmy, had to pick people, but that these three volunteered basically to be have nots for the week. And we heard some interesting reasons. Rachel said it's because she's trying to fit into a dress that someone gave her to wear. And so she said, once I'm out of the house, I'll be able to fit into it. So she's got a very set objective in mind of why she's have not for a second week. Amy said she wanted to make sure that she was have not when there were other people that also were have nots that she wants to spend time with. Yeah, there's something to be said for being a have not with some people that maybe you don't necessarily get along with or don't have the tightest connections in a house, of using that opportunity to pull in more bonds and try to develop some relationships by being forced to spend the night with some other people. Amy doesn't seem to be that kind of player. She knows who she wants to hang around with and work with, and the rest of them be damned. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, we do have those three as have-nots as well. With all that being said, let's go on to the feeds. We'll pick up right after the nomination ceremony. The feeds came back on at 5:40 or so, Big Brother time, somewhere right around there. And this week's nominations are Keanu, Kelly, and Adrian. No real surprises in those three picks. It's basically what Jimmy had talked about. I listed them in the order, probably a preference for a lot of the house to have them gone. Keanu, the biggest target. Kelly, certainly a backup target that Rachel and Jimmy and that side would be happy to get rid of. Adrian, if there was ever a pawn, Adrian would be it. Except we got so many powers out there this week. No one is safe if you go on the block. I don't care who goes on the block. I don't think anyone would be safe this week because of all these powers and how it could affect the final results. Again, Monday's going to be a great veto ceremony. All right, let's talk about the feeds. We've got Riley and Kelly and Keanu talking. Riley is trying to convince Kelly to use the veto on herself. What a crazy world that anyone has to be convinced to use the veto on yourself. Kelly is just trying to be, it's a haunted mystery house, call it what you will. I think there's a reincarnation of Tucker's ghost in this house as well. And he's possessed Kelly from the start, because Kelly is not sure she actually would use a veto on herself. We'll cover that again in just a second, but Riley's trying to convince her to do so. Kelly and Keanu both telling Riley that they believe that Will is the one who flipped and voted to send home Zay. They're still talking about who voted for who on Thursday night. They're both convinced it was Will that flips to send home Zay. Well, it was really Riley, but Riley's not mentioning that to either one of them. But Kelly and Keanu are saying, Will couldn't even look me in the face. They're so convinced. It's not right. You're wrong, guys. Will was loyal. Riley was not. All right, we've got Jimmy talking to Rachel. He's telling Rachel that a perfect week would be Keanu going home this week and Kelly going home next week. I think that's a perfect 2 weeks, not 1 week. But Not important, but the main thing is Jimmy and Rachel both have very well defined targets. They want Keanu and Kelly out of this house as quickly as possible. I think it's Jimmy who says we cannot let Keanu have another chance at HOH. He's going to win one of these things quick, and then we are in trouble. So definitely Keanu the target this week. But we got a couple things. We've got Keanu with his double chance at winning veto if he uses that power, and surely he will, right? And winning the blockbuster as well. So no matter how certain you are of your target, a lot of uncertainty. All right, we got Adrian in the gym, upstairs gym, look by himself, looking a little sad, a little despondent that he got nominated. He's got to know that he's a pawn, but still, don't. No one wants to be a pawn. Don't be a pawn. But he's looking a little despondent. Kelly comes in to cheer him up. She's telling him all that she has done in this house to get things stirred up. That she is responsible for getting all the fights in the house started. Keanu and Zay and Jimmy and Keanu. Any house guest fighting his house, basically Kelly's saying that she's responsible for it, and she's saying, you didn't even know I'm the one that started it, did you? And he said, well, no, not really. And she said, I started everything. She said, I'll blame it all on Rachel, but I am the instigator of the house. I'm taking care of business. Kelly's feeling very confident and comfortable about her position in the game right now. Now, she did win the last blockbuster, but your luck doesn't last forever. But she's feeling good. She's happy. It seems like playing the game, and that's rubbing some of the people in this house the wrong way. She's also Kelly's also telling Adrian that she might use her veto power on him instead of her. Again, she's maybe playing a little too hard, in my opinion. But she is suggesting that after she leaves the room, and she says something about, hey, I've already been on the block. Hey, I'm used to it. You aren't, Adrian. And if I go, I go. Whatever. So she's very nonchalant about it. Adrian, not so much. After Kelly leaves, Adrian sits down, gives himself a bit of a pep talk to his family. He does say, look, everything I studied, I forgot everything when I came in. Watching on TV and figuring out exactly what you would do step by step is a whole lot easier than once you get into the house. And I think Adrian is realizing that. But Adrian also is saying, I'm going to win this for you, Pops. I'm winning this for you, Mom. And really reminding himself of why he needs to play the game and play well. So he's feeling a little bit down. I think Adrian will be okay this week, but I wouldn't be betting any money on anyone in this house. All right, we've got well, maybe Jimmy. He's about the only one, perhaps. Will talked more about being in the military. I can't remember if it was Vince he was talking to, but he talked a little bit more about it. So he's definitely not trying to keep it a secret anymore in the house. I don't think that's going to have a huge impact on him. We heard other people talking, saying, Will's probably not going to be a huge threat to win the next HOH in competition. So he can talk about being in the military, and I think he's fine with it. Come clean with it, Will. People, I always respect the service members, and I think it actually benefits him. All right, we've got Riley getting his nails painted by Lauren. Sure hope Kat and Morgan don't get jealous of the attention Riley's getting from Lauren. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I think they'll be okay with it. But he's getting his nails painted by Lauren. Later, Lauren does Zach's nails as well. Now, I'm sure Riley may get a little perturbed at that. He may have a little jealous bone in his body, but yeah, Lauren doing a few of the guys' fingernails in the house. All right, we've got Adrian and Ava talking. Ava's saying that the whole house wants Keanu gone. Not the whole house, but a lot of the house wants Keanu gone. And the rest of the house probably is not going to shed a lot of tears if it happens. Keanu, for having a 10-person alliance and everything that he's tried to do, just does not have any tight connections, I don't think, right now. Even the folks that he feels tightest with are willing to cut him loose for his own game. So Ava's correct in that, saying the whole house wants him gone, that Adrian just needs to concentrate on winning the veto. And not even so much winning the veto, I think, to protect himself. She's just basically saying, you just need to make sure that Keanu doesn't win the veto. As long as Keanu doesn't win and he stays on the block, you should be good, Adrian. So win that thing so he can't pull himself off the block. I said a second ago, in a normal week, I think that Adrian is very safe. But in this situation, Keanu has 2 shots at winning veto, with Kelly also having this ability to earn an extra veto power. And with the blockbuster comp also offering a way off the block, no one is safe. In a perfect setting, for some people, in a perfect setting, Jimmy could see his top two targets both come off the block. Keanu wins veto. Kelly wins her extra veto. They both pull himself off the block. If Jimmy was then to put up Zach as a renom, Zach could use his special power, spend 10Ks, but use his special power, pull himself off the block. And at the end of all of this, Jimmy would potentially have to end up nominating 6 different people this week as HOH, reminiscent of Frenchie and his HOH week back a few seasons ago. So yeah, in a worst case situation for Jimmy, in a best case situation for us viewers, he could be putting a lot of people up on the block. Yeah, the bunch of powers floating around that could have some effects. All right, we've got Ava telling Adrian that she overheard Kelly say that her veto power allows her to put someone else up in her place, and that Riley volunteered to go up. Now, that's not the case. She gets to pull herself off. Jimmy still gets to do the renom, but that's not what Ava thinks that she heard. And she talked about it to some other house guests throughout the evening. I'm really curious to see how that rumor perhaps takes off and how that has an effect. We saw Rachel worried saying, well, that's a diamond power veto. And if that's the case, I know I'm going up. There's no question on that. So definitely they're a little bit worried about that just because Ava maybe didn't quite hear how the power actually works. Ava's worried about that being the opportunity, the situation, because she really is wanting to watch out for Adrian. She does not want Adrian to go home, and she's worried that if Riley does offer to go up on the block in replacement of Kelly, that at that point in time, if it came down to a vote, if Keanu then wins Blockbuster, pulls himself off, it came down to Adrian versus Riley. Ava's very worried that Adrian couldn't survive that vote. So she's a little bit worried that Riley made the offer. She doesn't think it makes a lot of sense, as she tells some of the members of the Bond Alliance a little bit later. All right, Jimmy and Ashley are in the HOH room. Jimmy is saying that Amy owes him favors, that she went against him multiple times last week and that he still voted to keep her. Therefore, she owes him big time, and he's going to make sure she remembers it. Now, considering that it wasn't a decision by one vote, what was it, 9-6, I think, if I recall. Considering it took a couple of votes to flip, I'm not sure that Amy maybe feels quite as indebted to Jimmy as he feels that she should. But he says that he may possibly call in those favors from Amy in order to get her to agree to be the replacement nominee if he needs to put up a renom so he doesn't get any more blood on his hands. And he kind of fishes around with that a little bit later. He's worried about the powers. But Jimmy's thinking that they all have to be earned, which again is not the case. Kelly has said hers has to be. We haven't heard anything from the other two, but he's thinking that all the powers maybe have to be earned. Rachel agrees with him on that. They're thinking that Kelly can pick her replacement. Again, the same thing Ava thought, which has them a little bit nervous about that. All right, Jimmy is talking about having a girls' night in the HOH room. And actually, he proposed this a little bit earlier today. While they're in there, at one point, Ashley suggests an alliance talking about him and her and Mickey and Morgan being a bit of a girls plus Jimmy kind of alliance. She's worried about Kat and Jimmy working with her, but Jimmy is saying she's worried about Kat and Jimmy working together or being close. And Jimmy says, look, I talked to Kat and all that, but she's just a floater. I have no problem cutting her loose when the time comes. So don't worry about my relationship with Kat right now. Jimmy does say at the end of this conversation that he probably would like to wait a few more weeks before solidifying an alliance. Remember, we've got 10 people on this side who all basically said, we're not forming an alliance. We're just going to watch out for each other for the next few weeks, and then we'll see what happens. And he wants to stick with that plan. Don't commit to a whole lot more right now, at least when he's talking to Ashley, but just wait a few weeks and then we'll see how things pan out. He does mention that he thinks they need to get rid of Ashley because she's smart and she seems to be very good at puzzles. And so he's worried that Kelly could get a bit of a win streak going on. They need to get her out while they can. All right, we've got Zach and Adrian talking. They're worried that they're outnumbered 9-5. And the 5 that are mentioned on their side are Zach and Adrian and Keanu and Riley and Will. Kind of a new combo. So many different alliance configurations out there. Hadn't heard those 5 names necessarily mentioned, but they're worried that's their 5 on their side, 9 on the other side, so they're severely outnumbered. Zach at one point talks about throwing the veto comp to Adrian if Zach was asked to play. And we found out later Zach was asked by Keanu and Adrian and who am I missing? And Kelly, all three, if they got house guest choice, would he be willing to play for him? And Zach's talking about that maybe he could throw that veto to Adrian so that Adrian is safe. Now, the problem if that happens, though, is then Zach is vulnerable to being put up as a renom. So he's got to think about that. And they do discuss that a little bit. Now, the other option is Zach just wins the veto, pulls Adrian off. Now they're both safe. You can't put up Adrian at that point in time either, so they're both safe. But as Zach pointed out later, the problem with that is doing that puts a massive target on his back. And right now he's feeling safe. He doesn't want to be too closely aligned with Keanu or Adrian or Kelly for that matter. So a little bit nervous about doing that, and I think that's a smart play. You don't need to expose yourself to that degree at this point in time. All right, we got Zach and Keanu talking. Again, similar to what we just mentioned, Keanu's asking about Zach playing for him if it's house guest choice. And Zach mentions that 3 people have now asked him. He's not sure what he would do if he won. Is he loyal to whoever picked him? Is he loyal to whoever he wants the most to stay? That's what he's got to figure out. He later leaves, and Keanu, if I recall, looks up at the camera and says, "Yeah, I don't think I'm picking Zach in that situation." And Zach's perfectly fine with that. All right, we had dinner in the kitchen. Everyone ate at the big table, but they still aren't eating off the fancy plates. They aren't moving the fancy plates. They just push them in, and when they get done eating, they pull them back out. I don't know what's going on. I don't think it's production. Production had no problem with us moving everything, but for whatever reason, they've just decided to keep the place setting and the table itself all very nice and fancy. And whatever. We use that was our main meeting place, was the kitchen table area that people sat around and everything. I just feel like that's all stifled when you've got so many fancy stuff on there, but whatever. I guess no one wants to break whoever's decided that's what needs to be done. No one wants to create waves by moving it. I'd be down there in the middle of the night, slowly putting a plate up here or there, or moving stuff around just to screw with people. But yeah, still in place. All right, so they had dinner in the kitchen. They spent some time after dinner going around the table, each person at a time saying what they are grateful for, and my skin immediately began to creep. During my season, we had the Grateful Eight Alliance. They thought it was so funny to do the same thing, go around the table and have each of us say what we're grateful for. And every time one of us said, "I'm grateful for," the members of the Grateful Alliance would laugh and be tickled that we actually said their alliance name. Yeah, ha ha ha. They're a real funny joke, guys. So yeah, I still have PTSD when I hear the word grateful, which is unfortunate. But they go around the table talking about what they're grateful for. All right, we've got Zach and Vince and Morgan in the storage room talking that Kelly's just kind of odd. The way she plays the game, the way she behaves, she's just odd. The same time they're saying that, we've got this girls hangout group up in the HOH with Jimmy. And it's Jimmy and Rachel and Lauren and Mickey and Kat. And there may even be 1 or 2 others that come in at one point or another. But all of the girls hanging out with Jimmy upstairs. While Zach and Vince and Morgan are calling Kelly odd downstairs, we've got this group upstairs that are talking about Kelly in a not fantastic way. Ashley is saying that she's worried because Kelly seems too confident, too unworried. Even though she's on the block, she's I'm fine. It's fine. No problem at all. And they just think that's very mysterious. Jimmy says, you know what? And Ashley says she wanted to play that HOH competition again, being dark and all. Jimmy says, well, it's because she's a sewer rat. So she likes the dark and crawling around in places. She's just a rat. So we got 2 different groups that are not on the same side that are both talking about Kelly just being a little bit odd. Kelly's quirky. Kelly's definitely playing a risky game that probably won't take her to the end. But as a viewer, she's made for an interesting season. I'm not ready to get rid of her just yet. All right, we've got Ava and Zach talking. Worried that if Keanu wins the blockbuster, Riley has been used as a replacement nom, that Adrian could go home. We hear Ava talking about this to a lot of folks throughout the evening. All right, as part of this same girls group upstairs I previously mentioned, Rachel is telling Kat that Riley said he's in love with Kat. And Kat says, people, I don't think that's really it. And Rachel said, no, he literally said, I'm in love with I'm in love with Kat. Kat says something about, well, he's a very nice man. A very diplomatic thing to say. But they're pointing out that Riley definitely has some feels for Kat at this point in time. Jimmy has continued to go off on a bit of a rant against Keanu, griping about him over and over, saying, I'm glad he's suffering. I'm glad he's feeling bad. I never wish harm on anyone, but with Keanu on this competition coming I'm wishing harm. Man. He just seems like he's taking it very personal. I don't know if it's true or it's a little bit performative just to show the ladies how much he's on their side and opposing Keanu. Probably a little bit of everything, but yeah, he's really going off on Keanu. Jimmy is asking, remember I mentioned that Jimmy would maybe call in some favors to Amy and try to get her to agree to go on the block. Well, Jimmy asked Amy. He asked Ashley and Amy, but really it seemed more focused on Amy. He's asking Amy, saying, would it be easier to be on the block a second time? You've already done it. So if you're on the block a second time, would you be all right with it? And she says, no. I think that would absolutely suck. And I just want to feel safe. So yeah, no, Jimmy, thanks for asking. He didn't phrase it as asking, would you go on the block? It was much more just a rhetorical, or I don't think that's the right thing. Just out in the air. I would it ever be? And she said, she was quick to shut it down. Yeah, no, I don't think so, Jimmy. Think I'm fine not being on the block. So he has tried. It's not going to be voluntary if she ends up on the block. All right, we've got Kelly and Vincent and Riley, Kelly, Vincent, and Riley talking. Kelly's talking. This is in the storage room. Kelly's talking about eavesdropping because at one point Riley runs over to the storage room door to see if someone's listening. Kelly says, I got it figured out. She says, I know every spot in this house where you can hear people talking. She said, I'm eavesdropping on everyone, everywhere. And so she's feeling very comfortable about her ability to gain more information. So yeah, she's laughing about that. She knows all the spots. All right, we've got Zach and Morgan talking, having a deep conversation in the upstairs lounge. Well, we've got the girls' night in the HOH rooms. A lot of people downstairs. The two of them are upstairs, kind of playing chess, but mainly just getting to know each other, talking, starting off with bucket lists that they want to achieve while they're in the house, but eventually turning into what kind of partner would you be most interested in? And it just seemed to be a very flirty conversation. I think Morgan in particular has some attraction perhaps to Zach. Now, does she act on it? I don't know. I think she's a pretty logical player, but definitely some flirty conversation going on up there. All right, we've got. And I'm all for it if those two were to make a showmance of it. That'd be kind of interesting. All right, we got Riley and Keanu talking. Keanu is explaining that if Riley was to win veto, he could use it on someone, and such as, hey, you could use it on me, and Riley couldn't be put up because I think Riley was trying to say, hey, if you pick me to play and I win veto, if I use it on you, Keanu, then they'll just put me up. And so Keanu's saying, nah, they can't do it. You're still safe. Riley seems very hesitant to want to play for Keanu, but Keanu's explaining why he'd be safe if he did it and all of that. All right, we've got about half the group, the group that's not either flirting in the upstairs lounge or hanging out in the HOH room. The rest of the group is downstairs in the living room. They start a game of truth and dare. We had eating the inside of a lemon, drinking pickle juice, some lap dancing going on. House guest, I think it was Mickey, having to go upstairs to Jimmy and saying, I hate you and I wish someone else was HOH this week. And just a lot of silly things back and forth. There was some folks trying to push for Zach and Lauren kiss, but that got shut down. Never happened. But they had a lot of fun just getting away from the game a little bit, playing truth and dare. Eventually, after that, everyone starts getting ready for bed, but still some conversations to be had. We got Morgan and Jimmy going around the house, trying to remember the details in the house. Oh, this picture has 7 crows. This picture, looking at the clock by the stairs. Oh, I thought it was set on 1:13. Now it's showing 1:15. I'm going to start watching that clock, see if it does change. But they're trying to remember a lot of things, which is perfectly fine. I think it's something important to do. There's so many props in the house. I don't know how you remember it all, but they're trying it. My only suggestion, while you're looking at everything, memorizing it, pull everything off the shelves, see if you got some kind of secret doorknobs. who knows at this house what could be hidden. So I'd be trying everything out. But yeah, Morgan and Jimmy going around trying to help themselves in case we get one of those competitions on down the road. All right, we've got Morgan and Vince talking a little bit. They're talking about Kelly. Vince is saying that there's a lot of people such as Morgan who have some real strengths, and Adrian, he mentioned several names. Y'all have all got some real strengths. He says, I'm not sure that Kelly necessarily has a lot of strengths that are going to carry her through to the end. There's a lot of conversation about jury. I think Morgan says, would you want Kelly on jury? And Vince is saying, well, on a kind of a selfish terms, maybe, because I think she would vote for me. He says, I think she would vote for you as well. So I'm not sure that I necessarily don't want her on jury. He says, but I'm not sure she's got the strengths that are going to take her to the very end either. They both think that she could be a vote for him if she does get to jury, though. Again, a lot of talk about jury versus non-jury and who would you want to help vote for you or not vote for you. We heard a little bit of it with Rachel and Amy that, oh, Amy will always vote for Rachel. And is it too early to be talking about jury? We've only had one eviction. Yeah, I think it's a little bit too early. I guess you can always be thinking ahead, but your decision making probably shouldn't be based just yet on jury or not. It should be based on who's the threat to you and who's not. All right, we've got Vince and Zach talking. They're talking about working with Morgan. They've got this little group of three that's already formed. They are saying more non-jury. They don't want Ashley or Amy in jury because they don't think that either one deserves it. They mentioned that Ashley, was this Zach who said this? I think he says that Ashley is emotionally unstable. Some loaded words. He says she's emotionally unstable, and Amy is clinging on to Rachel. Neither one of them has done anything to deserve being in this game into jury, so both of them need to be gone. May have something to do with the fact both of them would probably vote for Rachel over either one of them if it came down to it as well. They actually bring that up a little bit later. Zach is worried about saving Keanu or throwing the vote. Again, he feels like there's pressure on him to do it, but he's not sure about Keanu, and even having Keanu coming off the block is necessarily a good thing. In other words, if he comes off the block, someone that's a little closer to me may go up on the block, and I'll be potentially responsible for losing him. Whereas with Keanu, if he goes, he goes, So yeah, Zach not necessarily, and Vince in the same way. Neither one really feeling like they are going to be hurt incredibly if they lose Keanu. All right, we've got Riley and Kat talking, sitting on the couch down in the living room, doing a little talking. Rachel comes by, says goodnight. I won't repeat the words that they said, but neither one had kind words for Rachel. They are definitely not Rachel Riley fans right now. It is interesting. At one point, Riley says, hey, if I ever become too much for you, will you tell me? And Kat says, well, yeah, I will, because I'm pretty blunt. Sure. Did someone tell Riley that? Either another house guest or maybe production whispered in his ear. I don't know. I don't know that for any fact. Speculation, but apparently Riley is just feeling maybe he did a little too much. And maybe it's just Riley thinking about it and thinking maybe he came on a little too strong to her. Saying you fall on the sword, you're only there to help her win the money, and that you'll vote however she wants to vote. Yeah, that could be considered a little bit stronger, but eventually Kat says, you were very sad this morning. Is it okay if I ask why? And he said, well, I just felt like maybe I came out a little too strong, and I just felt bad. I kind of was thinking I kind of screwed things up and really didn't say all the things I wanted to say, and just felt like I came out a little too strong. So again, maybe he's just realizing that he may need to pull back just a little bit. Seems like they had a decent conversation, though. All right, we've got Ava and Vince and Zach talking. Now, these three are part of the Bond Alliance, which also includes those three plus Will and Lauren and Adrian. So Ava, Vince, and Zach talking. Ava again warning that if the veto is used, another member of the Bond it very well could go up, and that's just not good for any of them. They feel like the Bond Alliance is going to be okay as long as Keanu stays on the block. Keanu just doesn't have the friends that he thinks he has. They are happy. Ava is very upset that Riley offered to go up as a renom. She said, why would you offer that? Why in the world would you voluntarily agree to go up on the block? And not just because she wants to protect him, but it also puts Adrian in jeopardy. She says, that means two of our people in the Bond Alliance are on the blocks. You know, why in the world would you do that? Not happy with that particular gameplay by Riley. All right, we've got Morgan and Mickey talking about trying to create something without Jimmy. And they mentioned Ava as someone they'd like to pull in. Lauren or Catherine, they feel more comfortable with Lauren than they do Catherine, but basically a little bit of a girls' alliance that does not include Jimmy. I also noticed it didn't include Amy or Rachel, creating some additional feelers out there just in case. And I don't think that's a bad idea. You always have to have some other options. Ava's telling Morgan and Mickey that Amy and Kelly absolutely threw Keanu under the bus earlier. I don't remember exactly what she was saying, but basically just neither one of them, both of them were trying to kind of get some attention placed back on Keanu. So again, Keanu's name's on a lot of people, coming out of a lot of people's mouths right now. All right, we've got Ashley and Ava talking. Ashley is saying that she and Rachel aren't really close, that it's more because Ashley's saying, I know, or Ava's saying, I know that you and Rachel and Ava, Ava's saying, I know, Amy, that you and Ashley and Rachel are kind of a tight three. And Ashley said, no, not really. She said, they're the moms and all. They're tight. And she said, I kind of feel tight with Amy as well. But Amy's kind of that common connection that Rachel and I, we're not really that close or anything else. We've got different goals, different objectives. We just happen to both be close to the same person. All right, we've got Vince and Morgan talking. Morgan is saying that Kelly has confirmed. We saw the conversation a little bit earlier. Kelly was in the kitchen talking to Morgan and said, yeah, Keanu's got a power. He definitely has a power. He told me he has a power. And so Morgan is passing that information on to Vince, and I got confirmation he's got a power. They're worried that with Keanu's power plus Kelly potentially winning another blockbuster competition like she did last Thursday, it could be dangerous for whoever is the renom. If Keanu did pull himself off the block. So they're recognizing that no one is safe who's going up on the block this week. Adrian is telling Riley that they're talking in the bathroom. Riley is basically, I guess he got a little spooked by Keanu wanting him to play for him. And Adrian's saying, look, I've had 3 people approach me. He said, Riley, if you don't want to play for anyone, just tell them that you don't want to play in the veto. You prefer not to. It's not in the best interest of your game. You don't have to go into a lot more detail on that. Just don't play if you don't want to. And Riley said, well, that's good because I feel like they'll put me in a bind. He said, I'm not ever going to throw a competition. He said, but if I win it, then that puts me in a horrible bind. And Adrian's like, just don't do it. Just don't play in the game. So, yeah, Keanu may be 0 for 2 in terms of asking people. It may get down to a situation. Sometimes if you don't have a champion willing to stand up and help further you, you have to flip your strategy on these house guest choice for veto. And maybe he just needs to try to pick the person that he thinks has the least chance of actually winning a veto, which gives him just that much more opportunity. So Keanu may have to change his way of thinking just a little here based on these conversations. All right, we got Morgan and Zach telling each other that Kelly has told both of them that if they win the veto, that they need to keep the noms the same. In other words, and they say, is Kelly doing this to protect herself? Probably so, because I think Kelly realizes as long as Keanu is on the block as well, unless he wins a blockbuster, that Kelly is probably safe. And Kelly feeling very confident after winning the last one. So, yeah, she would prefer. I don't think she expects anyone's going to use a veto on her anyway. So she's telling everyone, don't use it at all. She'll take her chances that she can outlast or beat Keanu when it comes to Thursday night eviction. All right, finally, we've got Zach and Vince and Morgan talking about proposing an alliance with Lauren and Mickey and Ava. So again, Zach, Vince, and Morgan working together, and now they're talking about potentially pulling in Lauren and Mickey and Ava. That'd be an interesting little combination as well. Morgan is saying that they can do that, but they need to keep Rachel and Riley around. Rachel and Riley. I never got the connection, no connection, but they need to keep Riley and Rachel around for a bit longer since they're part of this heavy hitters alliance that was formed early in the season as well. So yeah, there's a lot of people still trying to develop new relationships as you start seeing sides being drawn based on the first eviction, based on the way people are leaning in this second eviction that'll be coming up. So there you have it, guys. Everyone in bed by 3 o'clock or so. I checked in every once in a while thinking we'd have some late night meetings and everything, but I think with the veto competition taking place today, everyone trying to get a little bit earlier bedtime so they're well prepared for the veto competition. We'll see what kind of veto it is. It's something that's going to give Keanu a chance to try it twice. So I don't know if that means rolling a ball or running a rail. Don't know, but it sounds like you may get opportunities to try to do something, go further, something like that. We'll find out. We'll find out who gets picked. We'll find out who actually gets to compete, who says yes, who says no, if there's a house guest choice that's pulled. I'll have it all for you first thing in the morning. In the meanwhile, guys, have a fantastic Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. I'll be back tomorrow to give you an update on on who won this veto and what the implications of that is going to be. Guys, have a great one. SKD143. See y'all in the morning. Cheers, my friends. Bye.